Hi, I'm here with Kim Kohlmeyer from Transport and Environment, and she's Manager e-mobility for freight and charging. So you're looking at environmental road transportation in Germany and in Europe. And Kim, looking at the EU as a whole, what is or what could be the main driver for logistic companies to go electric?
So what I would say is first the main driver is the TCO. So everything we need to do is to get the TCO down. That's like the most important thing. And on the other hand, obviously we need the charging infrastructure, also the public charging infrastructure, and we're talking about that a lot. What I also am a bit concerned with is private charging infrastructure, so the depot charging, where we have to go such a long way. But yeah, we can maybe talk about it later. But that's nothing that has a lot to do with regulation. It's more something that has to be built, and we need the grids in the end.
So TCO, I mean, there is a lot of research being done, and it shows that in a lot of cases, electric trucks are already now less expensive in terms of maintenance and so on, as if you consider really the total cost of ownership. But are we talking about it enough? Like, is that because perception is still, wow, electric trucks are expensive?
Yeah, I think it's still this thing that the invest is really high. In the beginning, it's higher than when you have like an ICE truck, right? So everyone who wants to buy an electric truck just sees this amount. And then the TCO, obviously, people, like companies calculate with it. But for example, here in Germany, we have like this market that is very differentiated in a way. So you have a lot of small companies, and for them, the invest is a problem. And since you don't have the public infrastructure yet, and the depot infrastructure, so the private infrastructure, is also expensive. Obviously, it kind of seems like a big mountain, so to say, that you have to overcome until you can get to the lower TCO. So I think what we really need now is people that go ahead and do it, and then people. So that is this talking about that you're talking about. So and then people will understand. Oh, it's really cheaper, because also what I always hear is like, oh, electricity is so expensive, which in the end, still the TCO is good, right? It's still better, but I think we need people to go ahead, and then the other companies will see like, okay, yeah, it really does make sense, and we can do it, and the TCO is low, and we actually have kind of a problem if we don't do it, you know?
So we need some first movers. What about in terms of policy? I mean, the EU, again, looking at the whole, and EU countries have some experience now from the ramp up of electric cars. Are you saying, okay, there's some policy that could serve as an example for ramp up of electric truck usage? Or is there maybe something like, we tried that didn't work. That's definitely something we need to avoid the second time around?
So I would really say, in terms of regulation, we are pretty far ahead, because we do have the CO2 standards. Obviously, we are now thinking about fleets, because you actually have to now get the trucks in the market, so to say. So a fleet mandate in some way would actually make sense. But in general, we have the AFIR, so a baseline of public infrastructure is there, or will be there at some point. We have the CO2 standards, which are super important also for the OEMs, so that they can actually reliably calculate. The fleet mandate would be something that would also be interesting. But I think now we really need to get into the doing, so to say, because we need to build the charging infrastructure, and we all know public charging infrastructure will not be easy to build. We know we don't have enough space. We know we don't have, like, the grids are not on point, let's say. So I think now actually, and it's funny for me to say, I know, but I think in terms of regulation, we are okay. I think now we really need to put it in place, and we do have to talk about the fleets mandate and obviously weight and dimensions, but no one else wants. So that is very nerdy, but weight and dimensions would be also something where we need to make sure that it's done in a way that electric trucks can actually go forward.
You mentioned AFIR, which obviously also regulates how many chargers or how far apart the chargers have to be along major highways or routes in the European Union. My question is, so there are very few OEMs that right now actually offer electric trucks, and they are showing, hey, you can already use electric trucks. with the charging infrastructure that's around. Now you have AFIR coming around, more fast charging along, like I said, these major routes. But do you think that's going to be enough, or do you think we need a second type of AFIR just for electric truck charging infrastructure?
So the AFIR is the base, right? I mean, there will be a market around the AFIR. The AFIR is really the base so that you know I can charge somewhere if I need to. And for that, it's great. But the AFIR as it is now, it was really good that we not implemented it, but we got it through in the moment that we got it through. And in that moment, we couldn't have done much different. But now we see that actually, when we look at where the charging hubs would be, and how big they would be, that there's a mismatch. So not all regions are the same. I mean, we have it on the TenneT network, right? And not all regions are the same. For example, we looked at the network or the AFIR regulation around Madrid and in the north of Spain. And obviously in the north of Spain, you need the distances, you need it every 60K, because if you drive there with an electric truck, you need to be able to charge. But you don't need the masses of electricity to go through there. So you don't need 3 megawatt or something. You need less, because there won't be so many trucks driving there. So I think what we really need to do now is kind of see that the AFIR stays, but that we put it in in relation, that we change it in the way it actually is built, so to say. So that the regulation now, it's a one size fits all, and that just doesn't make sense. We need more in Germany, for example, because the traffic goes through Germany, and we need less in the north of Spain, for example. So that is what we are saying.
You also mentioned depot charging. That's going away from EU regulation right now, but you also mentioned depot charging. What's the hurdle there? You said there is still a lot that needs to be done in that aspect as well.
So I think there's different hurdles. We are also doing a study on it right now. So in November, I will tell you the hurdles on point. But so one big hurdle obviously is the grid connections. The second thing is that all the regulation that we have, for example, in Germany, is not looked at from a depot charging point of view. So it's for example, if you build a depot charger with a KSNE, you cannot let other trucks charge at your depot, which is completely that is not what the government wants. We want to utilize the depots that we have, and stuff like that just doesn't make sense. And there we really need to look at it and kind of see that we streamline it so that actually the depot charging kind of design actually gets the TCO down. Right? So we just need to look at it again.
So you also mentioned depot charging. So obviously we're moving away from EU regulation there, but what are the hurdles that we're looking at in terms of depot charging for electric trucks?
So in depot charging, I think there's a lot of hurdles, and we're doing a study right now so that we see where actually the hurdles are, especially in Germany, France, Spain, and the UK. So in November, I'll tell you all about it. But what we already obviously know, because you do know a lot of things, is that we have the grid problem. We need grid connections. We need grid connection fees that are lower, to be honest. And on the other side, we need to actually look at it as a whole and look at depots as something with what we can actually get the TCO down for the logistics firms. So that is why we have to look at, because now regulation doesn't think about depots, right? And for example, when you look at the KSNE, no one thought about it. But when you look at the KSNE, if you would have built a depot charger with a KSNE, you cannot let other companies charge at your depot charger, which it makes no sense in the market that we have in Germany, in the logistics market. So that is not even what the government wants. But no one has thought about it from that side. So that is what we need now, is actually to streamline regulation so that it kind of promotes depot charging and sees that the TCO also gets down with the depots.
Okay, so just really quickly, KSNE is the German subsidies for electric trucks because we were talking about it before. So, um, no, that's okay. So you mentioned a couple of things I picked up over through our interview that you're kind of have a wish list for regulations. Maybe you can summarize that. And what are you maybe the three things that you really wish for to get electric trucks on the road?
So on the European level, I would say a fleet mandate in some way. And also that the weight and dimensions, we also already have the regulation, but that gets like reformed in a good way. On the German level, I would say we really need to get into the doing, so to say, because we have been talking about public charging a lot, and we will have the tender now at some point. We hope all, but there we need to get the money for it, and we also, I think, need to have something for the small and for the SMEs, SMUs, right? That we kind of help them to get over the mountain that I talked about in the beginning, because many small logistics firms don't make enough money. They have like a margin of like 0.1% or something, or 1%, but it's really not a lot. So there we need to see that we have the KfW, for example, that gives like credits that are cheap and easy to do, so that they can also electrify and can actually have the good TCO and the low costs that everyone else gets.
And if you have to put a number on it, how long until we all have that done? Number of years, sorry.
So I'm pretty, I like my, as you see, I like logistics, I like freight. And I think we will be so much faster than in cars. I think we will really, I mean, I don't know what you want, like for the number, but I think now we will have another slow year, because now, you know, all the trucks get into it and get into the market, and it starts all a bit and everyone tries. But I think in 5 years we will have a completely different market.
All right, Kim, 5 years. It's your word. We'll see if it holds up. Thank you so much for this interview.